I planted trees for 60 years that I will never see fully grown. The trees I planted in my first years in the field are teenagers now. The ones I planted in the middle of my career are in early adulthood. Not one of the trees I gave my working life to has reached the maturity that was the point of the planting. Not one of them will reach it in my lifetime. The oldest of them, when they finally arrive at the full grandeur of what a 200-year oak becomes, will be shading people whose great-grandparents have not yet been born. I am 88 years old, and I want to talk to you about what 60 years of planting things you will never see fully grown teaches you about how to live. The first thing it teaches you is the most important thing, and it is this: the most significant work any person does is almost always work whose full fruit they will not live to see. The tree whose shade cools the people of a century from now. The principle you model for a child who will carry it into the world long after you are gone. The institution you contribute to whose best years are half a century away. The culture of a family or a community or a profession that you shape in ways that will be felt by people who never knew you shaped it. All of it planted now, none of it fully available in the lifetime of the person who does the planting. And most people I have observed across 88 years do not plant things they will not see grow. They plant for the visible harvest. They invest where the return is available in their lifetime. They build what they can finish, contribute where they can see the impact, teach when they can watch the learning take hold. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. The visible return is real and the immediate harvest is genuine, but it is not sufficient. And the person who only ever builds for the visible harvest, who only invests where the return comes in their own lifetime, leaves behind something smaller than what was possible, leaves behind a garden rather than a forest, leaves behind what could be personally completed rather than what could genuinely outlast them. Let me tell you about two foresters I knew. The first was a man named Gerald who had been in forestry for 30 years before I met him. Gerald was, by any standard, an excellent practical forester. He understood soil and weather and the biology of tree growth with a depth of knowledge I admired. He managed his assigned areas with real competence and real care. But Gerald planted for the near horizon. The trees he planted were the quick-growth commercial varieties that would be ready for harvest in 20 years. The decisions he made were the decisions that would produce visible and countable results within the career timeframe of the person responsible for them. He was not wrong to plant these trees. They were genuinely needed and genuinely valuable. But Gerald never planted the century tree. The century tree, the ancient hardwood planted not for commercial harvest but for permanence, for the specific irreplaceable value of a 200-year oak or a 300-year beech growing in a landscape. Gerald never planted this because there was no career reward available for it, no measurement system that would record the investment in his performance, no harvest he would live to see. And so he did not plant it. When Gerald retired, he left behind a well-managed forest of trees that would be harvested in the next 20 years. Excellent work. Professionally complete. The second forester was a woman named Ruth. Ruth had the same practical expertise as Gerald, the same knowledge and the same care, but Ruth planted century trees, not instead of the commercial varieties, alongside them. On the edges of her areas, in the places that were not earmarked for commercial management, she planted oaks and beeches and ashes with the specific intention that they would outlast everything else she ever did, with the specific knowledge that the thing she was planting would be at its greatest value in a time so far from her own that no conceivable version of her life could reach it. I asked Ruth once why she planted them. She was very quiet for a moment, and then she said something I have been thinking about ever since. She said, "I plant them because someone before me did. Because the forest I walked into at the beginning of my career and that made me want to do this work for my whole life was not planted by me. It was planted by someone who stood in the same ground 100 years before me and made the same decision. They planted for me without knowing me. I am planting for whoever walks in here 100 years from now. That is what foresters do. That is what foresters do. And it is what all of us do, or fail to do. In every sphere of our lives, we are either planting century trees or we are not. We are either building things whose best value lies beyond our own horizon, or we are only building things we can complete and claim and see rewarded in our own time. 3 things. From 88 years of living and 60 years of planting for a harvest I will not see. First, plant for the generation after next, not for tomorrow, not for the next 5 years. Not even for your own children, though your children are a vital part of what you build. Plant deliberately, specifically, with intention, for the generation after them, the ones who will be shaped by what you planted without ever knowing who planted it. This requires you to think about what you are building in an entirely different way. Not what can I complete and see rewarded. What can I begin that will matter more in 50 years than it does today? What habit can I establish in my family culture that will be more needed by my grandchildren than it is now? What institution can I support or build or strengthen that is invested in a future I will not live to see? What knowledge can I pass on? What values can I embody? What example can I set that is not for this moment but for a moment 50 years away? Plant for the generation after next, not instead of building for now alongside it, as a deliberate separate act of investment in a time beyond your own. Second, the best work is invisible to the worker. This is the specific psychological gift that 60 years of forestry gave me, and it is hard-won because it runs against the very natural human desire to see the fruits of your own labor. The best work I ever did was the century tree planting that I will never see completed. Not the work that I could assess and measure and report and be rewarded for, the work that was entirely out of my sight from the day it was planted. The tree in the ground that would take 150 years to become what I intended it to become. I could not see it. I did not experience the completion of it. I will die before the work is finished. And that, I have come to understand, is a gift rather than a deprivation. The work that is visible to the worker is the work the worker is most likely to compromise in the direction of their own benefit, their own timeline, their own desire to see the return in their own lifetime. The work that is entirely beyond the worker's sight is the work that can only be done with pure intention. The century tree planting cannot be done for personal reward. There is no personal reward available. It can only be done for the forest. To the work that is too long-term to benefit you, do it not instead of the work that will benefit you. That work matters and must be done, but alongside it, as the specific, intentional, regular act of planting for a harvest that belongs entirely to someone else, the invisible work is often the most important work. Third, you are already building a legacy. The question is, what kind? This is the most sobering and the most liberating thing I know about legacy. You do not choose whether to build one. You are building one right now, today, by how you live and how you work and how you treat the people around you and what you contribute and what you withhold. Every person leaves a legacy. The person who tried to build one and the person who never thought about it at all. The person who planted century trees and the person who only planted for the quick harvest. The question is never whether, it is what kind. What is the legacy that is being built right now? By the specific choices you are making and the specific things you are investing in and the specific person you are becoming. If you looked clearly at the thing you are building, not the thing you intend to build, the thing the evidence of your current choices actually shows is being built, what would you see? And is that the forest you want to leave behind? Because you are leaving it behind either way. The forest grows from the seeds you planted, deliberately or by accident. The culture forms from the example you set, consciously or carelessly. The people closest to you become, partly, the shape of what you gave them, whether you were aware of giving it or not. You are already a forester. The question is whether you are planting deliberately. I am 88 years old. The trees I planted in my first years in the field are teenagers. The trees I planted in my middle years are young adults. Not one of them will reach their full maturity in my lifetime. I will not see what I built become what it is going to be, and I am completely at peace with this. because the planting was mine and the harvest belongs to the forest. And the forest does not owe me the harvest. I owe the forest the planting. That is the whole of the obligation. Plant the century tree today in whatever ground is yours to plant in, for whoever comes after you into the ground you have prepared, you will not see it grow into what you intend. That is not the point. The point is the planting. The point is that 100 years from now, someone will walk into the forest you made possible, and they will not know your name, and the trees will not carry your credit, and the shade will fall equally on everyone who walks beneath it without asking who planted what. And that is enough. That is in fact exactly enough. Plant